warning signs are getting bigger and bigger. Companies like Bed Bath & Beyond, Rite Aid, Party City, Tuesday Morning, Joann, and others currently have an elevated risk of bankruptcy. And according to credit agencies, store closures, layoffs, and employees being fired are at a high level of exposure if economic conditions deteriorate further. But let's be honest, economic conditions are already hobbling along for many. And a Fed-driven, slowing economy may bring a fresh wave of store closures and bankruptcies, just like Jerome Powell said he would make happen. And the simple fact of the matter is, you're probably asking yourself, what can I do to make sure that my family and I do not fall victim to the possible vulnerabilities of failing businesses and putting our livelihoods, our paychecks, our income, our savings, our ability to buy food, water, stock up, prep, keep a roof over our heads, maintain a vehicle, transportation, insurance, healthcare coverage, retirement benefits, and the list goes on and on and on. What can we do? Well, the answer to that is there's a lot you can do.
Revlon filing for bankruptcy protection last week.
So Revlon's bankruptcy filing last week, that was just the fourth retailer to file bankruptcy so far this year. So how did we get here? If you remember back in 2020, we saw a massive pull forward of bankruptcies, particularly in the retail space. It's just consumer demand. You know, where are people shopping? If we see a pullback in categories like home furnishings or apparel, then you can anticipate after the holiday season that those are areas where we could see more distress.
$16.15 trillion. That is how much debt American households owed by the second quarter of 2022.
The consumers that have a whole lot of debt really are struggling to survive. They're struggling to meet rent or mortgage payments, repay college loans, to repay loans for a car. They're struggling because they've got enormous credit card debt.
Well, you know, I think it is unfortunately a bad time at the moment, and it is going to get worse. It will eventually get better, but we've got to get through a very rough time before we get there. And that's the hard part.
Retailers that sell mostly discretionary goods, cater to middle and lower income consumers, and have weak balance sheets will be most vulnerable. Retailers with thin profit margins and those vulnerable to surplus inventory from a flood of returns after Christmas may also be on borrowed time. Meanwhile, other struggling chains such as Gap Clothing may be forced to close hundreds of stores, forcing thousands of old employees to seek unemployment insurance or work elsewhere. Analysts say e-commerce companies such as Wayfair and Stitch Fix, who have already had to slash jobs in recent months, may have to cut even further. We are now going back to the old rules. The companies that were skating on thin ice and were borderline on the edge before the pandemic had this brief reprieve. It allowed them to come up for air. Now it will be sink or swim, with employee incomes and family livelihoods on the line. The lower income and middle class families' personal household finances have never been at a greater risk than what they are potentially facing coming right down the pipeline and heading straight for them. So it's just one problem after another, and the hits just keep on coming. These at-risk retailers and many others are currently grappling with a combination of forces that include higher costs, excess inventory, and financially strapped customers. Consumer confidence is dropping to an all-time low, and so is savings and discretionary spending, with inflation swallowing up every last penny. So as the pandemic has receded, consumers have been shifting their spending from goods to services such as travel and entertainment. Inflation is bearing down, causing a drop in consumer confidence and a pullback in discretionary areas such as furniture and apparel. That's why retailers' inventories are bloated and companies are resorting to extremely early and drastic holiday shopping season promotions to try to stimulate demand, chipping away at their profits. So I wouldn't be surprised and almost expect to see many turning to aggressive discounting to solve their inventory problems, which is likely to spark a race to the bottom, pitting retailers against one another and creating the competitive sell-off our economy so desperately needs. Morgan Stanley analysts said this dynamic will weigh heavily on margins and fuel an earnings slowdown. So it's literally like a race to see who can go out of business first. That is, unless these businesses can trim some overhead fat and maintain respectable profits. And yes, you've guessed it. The proverbial fat I'm referring to are, in fact, employees. Yep. Job loss must occur for these companies to stay viable while trying to maintain high input costs and even higher interest rates on loans and lines of credit. So the Federal Reserve is also quickly raising interest rates to combat inflation, which is likely to cause some economic pain and millions of job losses. The Fed anticipates that the unemployment rate could climb up to 4.4% next year. I suspect it will be much higher than that, although they will doctor and fudge the true numbers. They're good at doing things like that, providing misleading data. So many investors and economists are predicting a recession. Such a scenario would result in a downturn for the entire retail industry. So in a sense, we are in a recession in terms of GDP, but the retail market hasn't felt the brunt of that hit just yet. Oh, but wait, it's coming. This will put highly leveraged retailers and weak companies at risk. Expect more bankruptcy announcements after more layoff announcements. So this could open up great opportunities for businesses to be bought and purchased at extreme discounts for smart, savvy, and liquid investors. But maybe there is some hope out there. Hear me out. Maybe, just maybe, the Fed and the president and Congress and whomever else is out there that could try and fix this may come around with another round of government aid and spending relief packages, cutting more federal stimulus checks, helping to grow personal savings accounts and pent up consumer demand. Because if you put the money in the hands of the American people, all we will do is go blow it, shopping online or at the mall or new swag to floss and flex on the gram and Facebook for clout. But nah, y'all, seriously, I'm just playing around. They will never do that again. So 2023 is expected to be a challenging year for the sector, and it is best that we know and understand that now. So prepare accordingly. Many companies are in better financial shape from previous restructurings and have closed their weakest stores, but some are still in the process or even possibly in denial and will have their weaknesses exposed very soon. And as such, employee layoffs will for sure follow. Banks brace for the expected defaults as families shall brace for an almost unavoidable, inevitable middle class and lower income family financial collapse. And the simple fact of the matter is, you're probably asking yourself, what can I do to make sure that my family and I do not fall victim to the possible vulnerabilities of failing businesses and putting our livelihoods, our paychecks, our income, our savings, our ability to buy food, water, stock up, prep, keep a roof over our heads, maintain a vehicle, transportation, insurance, healthcare, coverage, retirement benefits, and the list goes on and on and on. What can we do? Well, the answer to that is there's a lot you can do. The first thing you can do is tighten your budget. Now, we've talked about this in previous videos. You can go look back at my channel and watch those videos and get some more information on how you can start building a budget and then tightening that budget so you are aware and holding every single dollar you make accountable. Number two, I've got a very important live stream update coming to you guys later today, this evening, that I want you guys to check out. That is going to expand more on what happens when businesses' weaknesses and vulnerabilities are exposed and it puts the employees at risk. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Have you seen gas prices around here in LA? It's $7 a gallon almost.
Well, that's always been the case here.